Hey, ladies. Hello. I'm going live a little early. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sounds good. All right. How are you ladies doing on this Friday afternoon? How's it going? How's it going? So, I wanted to go live. I don't know if you guys caught Cynthia G on Fox Soul yesterday talking about being Black in America, the biracial conversation, right? And it raised a few questions. I 100% agree with Cynthia G. Like, let me just start off by saying that. I 100% agree with her on her outlook and her perspective on where biracial people stand in the US in comparison to Black people. But since my channel, I promote Black women dating out and marrying out. I do support and promote divestment. That all results in you being with a man who is not Black. And you ladies know that on my channel, I'm pro marriage, I'm pro traditional, I'm pro nuclear family. So if you plan to have that at some point in your life, especially with a man who's not Black, this is an important question you need to have. And you do, as a fully Black woman, you do need to be involved in these conversations about biracial people and being with a man, not only just being with a man who's not Black, but the children that will be a result of you being with him and how you're going to raise them and tackling these topics and these kind of, uncomfortable conversations. Um, and really deep dive into how you plan to raise your biracial kids in terms of like identity wise. Like, are you going to be okay with them identifying as Black, or are you going to be more so on the side of them making sure they identify as biracial? And how are you going to raise them? Are you going to teach them a lot of the Black culture, or are you going to just teach them how to be themselves, teach them how to, um, you know, create their own identity? Right? Like, how are you going to do that? And with a lot of Black women that I see that do want to date out or just simply are attracted to other men who aren't Black, I never hear them say, well, how are you going to raise your kids? And even the same with Black men. Black men love to say that they're going to get them a Becky and create a family and settle down and all that stuff. But it's just like, okay, everyone has their preference for who they want to date, marry, and who they want to have kids with. However, are you thinking further? Are you thinking about the dynamics that are going to play into it when you have children? Are you going to think about the identity issues that they may have when you have kids? Maybe identity issues that don't come from you or, the other parent, the non Black parent, but identity issues that may come when they go to school, when they see other kids and how other kids' parents look the same. And they question, why don't my parents look the same? Or what's wrong with me? Or where do I stand? Like, what are your answers for that question? So, I'm already going to drop the link in case anyone wants to come up and, share their thoughts on that, cuz I have a few things that, I could say cuz I have a biracial niece. She is half white and half Black. Let me pin this. And she's only 5 years old, and she's already asking questions about race and who she is and how she can identify herself. And she has she has little friends in preschool that are fully Black. Her best friend is she already has a best friend at 5 years old in preschool, and it's a little Black girl, a fully Black, unambiguous Black girl. And she'll want to get her braids done like her and all these other things. But her white mother, my brother and her are not together, they're divorced. Her white mother, did I say white brother? I whatever. Her white mother does not approve of her getting braids, like those cute little Black girl braids with the beads in her hair. And my family has a serious problem with the white mother saying things about black people and already kind of she'll say racist things about black people basically to my biracial niece. And not that they don't accept her black side or her white side, but actually they say things about her black side so that she appreciates her white side more. So I know in that what's it called, interview with Cynthia G, in that interview with Cynthia G yesterday, it was kind of the opposite, right? Like the ladies were saying how um, they got rejected from their white side. Well, it's kind of the opposite with my niece, with my biracial niece. Her white side not only accepts her, but wants her to put her whiteness on a pedestal over her blackness. And my niece she's definitely, light skinned. She is not brown skin at all. She's very light. She's basically like, what's that actress that everyone had a problem with? Bandy Newton or whatever. She's basically looks like her, but 5 years old. And her hair is just like a little bit curlier. Or Tia and Tamara Mari. Like that's how my niece looks. And her hair isn't the color black. Her hair is like a golden brown, but curly. So my niece looks more white than she does black. She does not have brown skin. She has light white skin. So her white side fully claims her and tells her to more so reject her black side. So that's the this is the picture of the live video yesterday that came on Fox Soul, and I was watching it and I was in the chat. Now me personally, I consider biracial people biracial. And hey ladies that are coming in, please like this video. I consider them biracial. I do not consider biracial people black. My man is not black, guys. He's white. So, you know, he's we're, I mean, we're definitely talking about marriage, right? But we haven't talked about how we'd raise our kids, and I don't think my man has a way he would want to raise his kids. I don't really think I don't want to say he doesn't care, but he does, like he just knows he's going to love his kids. He doesn't have a race thing with it. But he's also white, so he doesn't live in that world where, he doesn't understand race in terms of like how it is with black people. Of course, he's a white man. And that's just what it is. Your non-black partner is not going to understand certain things about race that you understand. So when you guys have kids together, it's kind of going to be on you, the black person, to be able to explain these things and know how to teach your children and even your non-black spouse what the deal is. And you kind of need to figure that out. I was in a Facebook group, majority black people, and some woman posted a picture of a black woman and she said, black love is amazing and all this stuff in the caption. And all the men were just like, I don't know about that. Like, they were not agreeing with her. And I low-key wasn't either. I was like, sis, why are you posting this? Right. And so um I left a comment to one of the guys in the comment section, and he was a black guy, and he was just talking about how his friends have biracial children and they love them all the same. And I said, okay, like that's fine. However, all these men see a picture of a black woman and already think that she's going to be difficult in a relationship just from seeing the picture of a black woman. They already have that outlook onto her. So I said, okay, so the alternative then is you're probably going to be with a white woman, right? So does that mean that you're okay with possibly, having kids that don't look like you, being the only black person in your entire house? Also, possibly having non-black grandkids. Your biracial children could get with, um, you know, a white person if they're half white, or a Latino person if they're half Latino, and then if they have kids, your grandkids will definitely not really look like you, like at all. Your grandkids might come out fully white, and I say that to the men because the men love to just see Becky as perfect no matter what. But for black women, it's not that black women see white men as perfect or Latino men as perfect. Black women are dating out because they're tired of the circumstances that they're dealt with in the black community. And there isn't even an abundance of men to go around that are marriage material, unlike how it is with black men. Black men have an abundance of women they can choose from, but black women do not in the black community. So black women need to date out. Like black women date out and marry out for reasons other than they just are disgusted by the black male image. Black men will date out a lot of a lot of times than not. I'm seeing that black men are dating out because they just like white women. Even though they have an abundance of black women to choose from, we outnumber them. They will still choose other races of women or put them on a pedestal, compare you to them of some kind, and all of that, and then bring up all these superficial reasons. So, like your hair, your attitude, and all that other stuff, right? And it's like black women aren't saying that about black men. Black women are not saying that black men are fat, black men are loud, black men are like black women are not commenting on how black men look. Black women that date out are probably still physically attracted to black men. However, they don't want to settle down with black men because of the circumstances, because of um, the pathology. And some just don't do it not because of any other reason than they just can't find a good one and they're just finding more non-black good men and they're just choosing from that. A lot of the black women who have been divesting, who married out way before, all this internet stuff started, they'll tell you I was just dating and I met my husband and fell in love and he just so happened to be a non-black man, right? So, I'm hearing more black men say, "Oh, I was giving black women a chance, but they're difficult, so I went to a white woman." Right? So in that comment section, I was just like, okay, so the men are settling for white women because they're much more easygoing, whatever that even is. And but in turn, they're not prepared for being the only black person in their household or, having biracial kids. They're solely thinking about the woman and how he's going to get treated, is what I'm saying. Black women, when they date out and marry out, they think about the environment they'll live in. They think about how they're going to be protected and provided for, and the easygoing life they're going to have because they're with a man who values family and working hard and protecting his family and doing right. So it's different. It is different. When black men date out, it's because the women are just easier, prettier, and all these other reasons that have nothing to do with the long haul, is what I'm saying. Black women are dating out right now because of reasons that have to do with the long haul, right? Hey, boy. Hey, ladies coming in. So I wanted to ask this question about if you have biracial children. If you're a single woman and you don't have, and you're dating out, you're even open to marrying out, because on my channel I talk about interracial relationships, I talk about marriage, I talk about dating out. I've been posting black women married to other races of men, especially on my community tab. And I wanted to have the conversation, like, now that you have your man, now that you have your marriage to your non-black man, have you thought about the kids? Have you thought about how you're going to raise your biracial children? Are you going to teach them more about being black, or are you going to teach them just a universal, like, way of being a human being, right? Like, what are your ladies take on this? Because I was just talking about my niece and how her and my brother and her white mother, I mean, are divorced. They have 50-50 custody. She's only 5 years old, and her mother and her entire white family say racist things about black people. And they're the complete opposite between these women that were in this interview yesterday on Fox Soul. Her white side accepts her, but they put down her blackness. And my niece looks more like the biracial woman in the interview, in the picture. So Cynthia G was on here yesterday, and she was completely right. She was completely correct in everything she said. As a black woman, I'm with a non black man right now, I'm with a white man. And if we get married, I am going to teach my half white and half black children how to be themselves, how to love themselves. I'm going to teach them both sides as much as I can. I'm not going to put blackness on top of their other side. I am not going to do that. I actually want, because my man now, he's white, but he's from a foreign country. So he speaks a whole nother language. And I would love for him to teach our kids how to speak his language. I would love for him to do that. I want my kids, I want our kids, if we have them together, um, to know about both cultures of their life. I want them to know about both sides. And I'm never going to make them choose just one. I'm never just going to call them white or black. I will make sure that they know and believe and accept. That's the key word, accept that they are biracial. Because a lot, the two women that was in this interview yesterday, the vibe I was getting is that they low key just don't want to accept that they are that they are biracial. Like they really had they really had a problem with accepting and identifying as biracial. They wanted to cling on to their blackness so bad, but I really think it's because they were rejected by their white side or just not accepted by white people. But rather, regardless if they're accepted by white people or not, you are biracial, all right? You don't need acceptance from anyone if you're a biracial person to state the facts. And the facts are you have two different races inside of you. You are not solely black and you are not solely white. And I do agree that biracial people do need to recognize that they are biracial, number one, be aware of it, and create an identity around that. Right? Create that identity. And it's okay to do so. It's totally okay to do so. I agree that biracial kids should be raised as biracial so they can be happy with both sides of their heritage. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, they have to be happy with both sides of their heritage. And I feel for these two biracial women because they clearly were raised to not be happy with both sides. They only wanted to be happy with their black side. The blonde haired biracial woman, she really she was really making me upset. Like, she really sat there and said in front of everyone that I am a black woman. Like, she said that out of her mouth. I was like, what? Like, she looks very white to me. She looks like a white woman who just so happened to curl her hair in the morning. That's all, you know? And then the other girl, I think her name was Crystal. This darker haired one here, she looks Hispanic to me. She doesn't even I don't know, like they don't look they don't look black. I know they feel it. I know that they've been around it. I know that they love it. But no. No, there was a point in time where I loved anime, but I wasn't out here trying to figure out if I had some Asian ancestry in me. Like, what if I was raised by Indians as a fully black woman all my life, and I got up here and said, "Oh, I'm an Indian woman," knowing damn well I look fully black. All right. And the thing is about biracial people who believe this and think this way, um, is that it doesn't really it doesn't really matter what they want to identify themselves. Other black people see you as biracial. They see you as half white and half black. Other black people do. So you can scream it from the mountaintop. These two ladies can scream, "I'm biracial." I'm sorry. I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman, but when black people see you, they see you ain't black. From the outside, they see it. They see it. Even the even the blonde-haired lady was talking about how she goes out and some people are confused as to what she is, or some people thought she was flat out white. And white people were telling her, you can take that Negro off of your birth certificate. You can just be, you can replace it with mixed race. Like, what is the problem? That is what you are. You are biracial. And so when I raise my biracial kids, if I have biracial kids, because I'm with a non black man now, if we go that far, I will never, ever elevate blackness over their whiteness. I believe, even if you and your non-black man as a black woman don't break up and you guys stay together, but you as the black mother keep elevating blackness, I truly believe that is a little disrespectful, because you have a whole you have a whole white man in your household, but making your kids believe that only the blackness part of them matters. Like, that is, you have to also think, how would your non-black spouse feel if you're only teaching black culture to y'all's biracial kids? Like, would they feel included into their children's lives in terms of culture, right? And I don't think a lot of non-black men get it. I don't think a lot of non-black people get it because they're not black. But it is an important conversation that black women need to have if you are dating out, you want to marry out. If you do that and you want to be a mom, it is a fact you will have biracial kids if you do that. And you need to come to terms with the fact that you are probably, in my opinion, doing more right than wrong if you raise your biracial kids to simply be biracial, and not fully black, no matter how they look. Because I've seen biracial people that come out actually looking fully black, like they have brown skin and curly hair, right? Like they actually look fully black, but they're still biracial. I mean, we can say this about Obama. Obama looks more so a little bit more black than he does white, and that's because his skin is a little bit more brown, and he has thicker lips. So people have always just called him a black man because he looks black, but he is obviously half white. He was raised by his entire white side, right? Like, that's kind of how it is. And he married a black woman, but then his kids ended up coming out looking much more black. So, Jesse looks black passing. Yeah, Jesse is, I think, is he biracial? I think he's biracial, right? So, what do you guys think? I dropped the link. I'd love for you guys to come in and give your thoughts, especially if you are a woman who doesn't have any children yet, or you don't have any biracial kids. How would you raise them if you were to have kids with a non black man? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about it that far? Have you thought about how you would raise your kids and how you would help your young kids cultivate their own identity surrounding their culture? It's also about identity theft. Black men want mixed race, biracial women to represent black women and are replacing us with their mixed race, biracial black queens. And to find their own lane. Yeah, I agree. I've heard so many black men say that they can create a black person no matter where they go, but it's just not true. Even for us black women, we can only create a fully black person getting with another black person. It just is what it is. So, but when you divest from, it's really whatever you make it. But what a lot of the women who are divestors are saying is that they're divesting from black community. So if you have that mindset, you wanting to create another black person or birth another black person, I'm not saying shouldn't matter to you, but it's not going to be the goal. It's not going to bother you. You should already be welcoming the fact that you are most likely going to have biracial kids. And also, if you're a black woman who has biracial kids, you also need to know that your biracial kids might mate in their adult life with someone from their white side or their Latino side or their Asian side or whoever, and you might not have grandkids that look like you. That is also a possibility. But if you are truly for divestment, that should not bother you, because you are going to be focusing on what is best for you as a Black woman. You, okay? And what's best for your kids and their kids, depending on protection and being provided for, and community and the environments they're going to be raised in. That should be your focus. That should be your focus when it comes to divestment, in those terms. Divestment as in from Blackistan. But divestment is what you make it. So I'm not here trying to like put rules onto it. But that is what I've heard other Black women who are divested fully. And when it comes to being divested from Blackistan, that is what they have said. So your divestment can look like something else, like whatever. But that's what I've heard. It doesn't bother me if I have biracial kids, if my grandkids don't come out looking. It doesn't bother me, because I'm focused on making sure that my family, anything that comes from me, period, is safe and sound. I don't care about aesthetics. I don't care about color and hair texture and stuff like that. I don't care. I don't care. I care about the best man for the job. I care about my family being taken care of. I care about me being taken care of. That's what I care about. And if you truly are in a mindset of divestment, if you're truly in a mindset of leveling up, that should be like the main focus. The aesthetics and all of that and what everyone's going to look like should be so irrelevant. I mean, because that's the whole reason why dating out for Black women and interracial relationships and that type of propaganda is even coming out. We're seeing more Black women on TV with non-Black men. It's because Black women don't care about the looks anymore. They don't care about the aesthetics. They care about quality men, no matter what they look like, no matter the kids you guys produce together, no matter the grandkids that come from that. It's about having a family that is quality, not a family who's just Black, right? And that's kind of like, that's the mindset you need to think. And it's unfortunate that the biracial women that were on this show yesterday were raised by a generation of people who, by a generation of, their Black parent and their non-Black parent, who did make them choose. Who did make them choose. That is unfortunate. So my hope for Black women that are a part of divestment, that are a part of marrying out of this generation, who have yet to have kids especially, that when you finally do, you do not make them choose a side. You make them feel included in both as much as possible. As much as possible. Therefore, they won't get on TV when they get older talking crazy, looking white, and yelling that they're Black just because they chose to be Black. Choosing to be Black is not a, you can't choose to be Black. You either are or you're not. It's not a choice. It's a default. Like you're born Black or you're born biracial or you're born white. You can't just say, "Oh, I was raised around Black people and we did Kwanzaa and I know how to make soul food, so I consider myself a Black woman." What? What? That is crazy. That's a very crazy thing to say. That's a really weird way to create a racial identity, or to explain your racial identity based off of holidays and how other people made you feel. Like that's a really weird and crazy way to dictate who you are as far as like your race. Because, like I said, other Black people, it doesn't matter what biracial people say or believe, to be honest, I'm not trying to be offensive, but other Black people can see that you're mixed race. So you can claim blackity black black all you want. But if other people don't see you as that, you won't be that truly and fully. And that's what makes woman like this on the screen. That's what makes women like this upset. And they made good points that because they were rejected from their white side, it's almost like they did use their white privilege to bombard into the black community to make themselves um, accepted and feel better about being considered black. Because obviously, white and black isn't the only biracial mixture. I know half white and half Asian people. I know half white and half Hispanic people. And I have a girlfriend who is half white and half Filipino. And she does not practice like any Asian customs of any kind. She's just herself. Like I don't when I see her, I just see a, a regular woman. She has her hobby, she has things she likes to do, places she likes to go. She travels. I mean, her identity isn't her race. Her personality isn't her race. Her personality is what she wants it to be. Her womanhood is based off of who she is as a woman. Has nothing to do with her race. And that is how, you need to raise your kids, your biracial kids. And I think I don't know about you ladies, but the half white, half Asian, half white, and half Hispanic people I've met, they don't act the same as half black and half white people. Like they don't act the same as half black people. Um, it's weird. I don't even know if I can explain it, but biracial people that have no blackness in them whatsoever, that are half Asian and just half Hispanic, half Asian, half white, or whatever, like they act more just normal. They don't have these types of conversations. Like they don't have conversations with Hispanic people trying to say they're Hispanic while being Hispanic and half Asian. Like they don't do that over there. So it's interesting how this is only here in the black community where conversations like this is going on. It's very interesting because other mixtures don't talk about stuff like this. They don't. And I don't know if it's because of the history, black people have in this country and um, how biracial black people have a phenotype that can look different. Because if you see half white and half Asian people, they kind of look, I don't even know how to explain this, but they kind of look like, they kind of look regular. Like they kind of look white. Like I don't know, they kind of look white. They kind of, I don't know, like they fit in basically, like their look. They don't have the phenotypes that black people do. So I think that's why biracial black people want to have these types of conversations all of the time. All of the time. But I do know some biracial black people that acknowledge they are mixed race, that they are biracial, and they're fine with that. So those people do exist. And the people I've met, my friend who's like that, she's had both parents in her life. So, she doesn't act one side or the other. So, that I think that's important too. Um, if you're going to have a biracial child, you need to, always make sure that they're involved with their non black side as much as you can. Hopefully, all of you ladies that do get married and have kids, no crazy divorce stories happen. I'm like proclaiming that. Who wants that? But I was telling you guys earlier about my biracial niece, and her mother and my brother divorced. Her mother's white, and it's horrible. She says very racist things about her entire family, says racist things about black people at the dinner table and everything. I mean, it's like my niece will come and repeat things to my brother. Like I'll give you guys one story. During all that Black Lives Matter riots and all that stuff during the pandemic was going on, she was at her mom's house. And by the way, her mother is remarried to a white man and they have a whole new child together. But she still talks about my brother and black people in front of them. So weird. And yeah, they were watching the news of all the BLM stuff that was going on. And uh, someone said I think it was her mother, and she said black men's lives don't matter in front of my niece. So my niece goes back to my brother, and they're also watching the news now that my brother, because they have 50-50 custody. So now she's with my brother and they're watching the news again. And then my niece, just out of nowhere, blurts out, "Black men's lives don't matter." Guys, she's 5 years old. And my brother was like, "Where did you hear this from?" So she said, "Mommy said it." And she said her stepdad's name. So, it's difficult when the parents aren't together. I think it's much more difficult when the parents aren't together. Yes, the key is the parents to stay together, because if you come from a split home, if have you're in a split home situation and the father or the other person is not black, you don't know what the other side is saying about black people behind your back. All right? And I think that is how it starts with biracial people having to choose, quote unquote, having to choose a side. If the parents stay together, you don't have to choose. The child isn't going to feel like they have to choose. They see healthy representations of both cultures living in the home together. They're going to feel included in both, right? Like, guys, having a two-parent home, guys, is so important for the development of kids. It's so important. It's so important. Yes, like I think, yeah, the Mona Lisa lady, I think she was a little bit more delusional than the Crystal Girl, because she was really on there saying, "I'm a black woman and I love it." Like, what the hell? Like, she looks like a whole white woman. She looks like a whole white woman. Like, she looks like Rachel Dolezal. She looked like Rachel Dolezal, guys. Like, that's how I was looking at her. Like, you have some kind of racial dysmorphia thing going on. Like, you think you're something you're not. Like, that's how I was looking at her. And I think to avoid raising a biracial child that turns out to like this Mona Lisa lady who's always having these inner struggles of who am I think a few things need to happen. Number one, parents must be together and be involved in the child's life as much as possible. As much as possible. And for you single ladies that have not had any kids yet, but you have a preference to marry men of a different race, thoroughly vet your man, ask about his family, ask how his family feels about race and all that stuff. In the event that maybe it does not work and you guys end up having a child together, vet thoroughly, because the last thing you need is to be with a man who he is not racist, but he got a racist auntie. He got a racist, like, you don't want your kids around that, because if they hear any discriminatory things about either side, they're going to be confused. I'm seeing it right now with my niece. She is confused. She is confused why her black daddy is so amazing, but her white mommy always got something to say about black people. She's confused, like she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. So I think that is the first thing. You really want to vet the non-black man you're with for not if he's racist, but does he have racism in his family? Does he have anything like that? A racist sibling, mother, whatever. Whether you guys stay together or not, that's still important to know. And you can decide if you're going to deal with that or how you guys together are going to deal with that. That has to be an important decision. A second thing is, if you're going to have biracial children, do not elevate your race over the other. Consider them equal. Like, if you marry a man who may speak a different language, I would encourage you to tell your man to teach that language to the kids. Make them feel included and um, make them feel comfortable learning things about their other side. Don't make it seem like it's lame or it's weird or whatever that they're learning this other language. Like, you may not know the language and that's fine, but they should know, because that is 50% of them and they should know how to speak it. Um, but you ladies call up. I'd love to hear what you ladies have to say. And just in general, what did you, if you watched the Fox Soul show yesterday, what did you think? I think Cynthia G was 100% on point. I think she was completely correct. Biracial people need to create their own identity. And I pose the question, if you have biracial children, your young children who don't know any better, how are you going to help them get there? If you are a black woman who already is, you're dating who you're dating, he's not a black man, and you know you probably will have biracial kids if you stay with this non-black man. How are you going to help them create this identity as a young kid? What types of qualities, at least, are you going to establish in them? Hey, Black Widow, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, wait, sorry, my mic was muted. Yes, I can hear you. I don't know why my mic muted, but
Hello?
yes. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear? I don't know what happened. Were you guys able to hear, or did that not work? Can you guys hear me at least? It's saying that you guys can hear me. Okay, Black Widow, let's try this again. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. I don't know
Okay,
what happened.
cool.
My mic like muted out of nowhere, but so how are you? What are your thoughts?
I'm good. And thank you for creating this space and this live.
Of
Um,
course.
I watched it, and honestly, I think it was a really good episode because I think it was a really, really good example about how a lot of biracial and mixed people are very confused and how the
Yeah.
one drop rule should not exist because even when like um the moderator was asking the deeper questions, they started to deflect.
Yeah.
And I was like, exactly, because biracial and mixed is its own identity. And the
Mhm.
fact, like, I don't know why nobody said, like, oh, well, black women who are black are never questioned about their blackness. And consistently, Mona Lisa kept saying, well, yeah, like, even when people see me, they always tell me, why don't you just say that you're white? And it's like, would a black woman ever be questioned in that way? No.
Yeah.
That means you're not black. You're biracial. So I was just kind of like,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why it seemed like, and someone said in that chat that they're trying to make it now seem like being called biracial is is a slur, like it's a derogatory term. And my hope for black women that are divested, wanting to date out, just whatever, is that when you do have your biracial kids, that you're consuming this media and you're seeing just how not to raise your kids, like how not to do it. Because if your child that you have with your non-black man does come out looking more non-black, like very lighter skin, maybe light brown curly hair instead of like your black hair, you have to make sure that they never grow up to be any of these crazy people screaming on TV, "I'm black, I'm black." Like, child, no, no. I
And did
would
you
have.
see? Hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, my bad. It was lagging on my end. It was like a pause. I thought you were done. You can go finish.
Oh no, I'm finished. Can you hear me? Is it still good?
No, I can. I just think I don't know if it's because I'm on Wi-Fi or something. About to turn it off because it was like going slow for a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Is
you.
it slow?
Not on my end. I can hear you good.
Okay. In the episode, did you see when Mona Lisa was talking about like how she was raised and her white mother had left her behind with her
Hmm.
dad? And remember when she said, yeah, it wasn't until my dad married a black woman And that's when I had discovered like a whole new life or something. She's like, I had discovered a whole new identity and stuff or
Yeah.
something like that. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that there aren't like biracial children who like are not confused and they have black mothers, but black women are a lot better with raising their biracial children.
Mhm.
We just
Yeah.
understand race a lot more better than black men. And you can even see it with the other mixed looking woman. I think she's like mixed or something. And she
Yeah.
was saying how her Nigerian dad taught her Kwanzaa and all these things. And I was like, okay, you're still confused because Nigerians don't celebrate Kwanzaa, first of all. Second,
Yeah.
second, when she said, well, I just take offense to that because she said she was offended by, I think it was like either sin or something like that. And they were like explaining to her how, like her phenotype and stuff, how it's like exalted, it's just different or something like
Mhm.
that. It was just a lot, but she was offended by like being called biracial or mixed and how it's not black because they can move through life very differently than a black woman. Like they don't suffer all the plight of a black woman and they also do not experience the fullest extent of white privilege, but they have some of the so-called white privilege of being closer to whiteness. And
Yeah.
that's what they don't get. Like the proximity does matter because you're on the spectrum of blackness. We as black women are just black in general and women. You don't
Mhm.
experience that. And so even when like they were talking about like colorism and all that stuff, it's funny because they kept denying, but then when they talked about their own lives, they were proving the point. Did you
Yeah.
see that? Like every single time
Yes.
they'd be like,
They
no,
proved
I just never
everything that
really experienced it. And then they proved
yeah,
it when they talked about their lives. I'm like, they are
right.
delusional.
It was really kind of getting on my nerves because when the darker haired one, I think her name was Crystal, and she was talking, they asked her like, have you ever experienced basically like being the preference over black women? She's like, no, I haven't really experienced that. And so then they're like, so you've never seen the music videos that just have, you know, women that look like you and no black women in there, or the acting roles where they cast lighter skin mixed or just mixed black women over fully black women? She's like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, I have. Like, she was just so, like, I will. So you really got to be living under a rock to not notice that as a biracial woman, you do have preferences. And, you know, it's funny, like you brought up, you were saying how black men, they, you said that they choose the mixed race woman. And, you know, I said earlier, like, like when black men want to get with a non-black woman, it's for the superficial reasons. But
Mhm.
since we have divestment and more like propaganda around black women just being with non-black men, those reasons are not for superficial reasons. Those reasons have all to do with safety, with legacy, with protection being provided for, and having a better quality of life, having creating a higher quality family. Like those things have nothing to do with the fact that like non-black men are taller, are stronger, are funnier. Like they have nothing, no reasons like that for black women. But for black men, however, their reasons for dating out is Becky is easier. Becky, she's not loud, she's skinnier. Like all of these superficial reasons that don't even guarantee that Becky and all those other women would make good wives, would make good mothers, would even make good partners in a relationship. It's just these small, insignificant reasons.
Exactly. Because even when you hear, like when Mona Lisa was talking about, you know, her white mother leaving her behind. And remember when she talked about how her white mother's family was very racist. And that's part of the reason why her white mother left her behind.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of biracial people don't understand that even though, like, I learned this in undergrad, when, if your father, right, has another child, like outside, right? You're
Hmm.
actually more closer related to that because like men carry the XY chromosome. So you're more related to those siblings than you are if your mother were to have another child, something genetically. But what they forgot to also add in this conversation too was the fact that kids are still socialized closer to their mother though. So even
Yeah.
though you're biologically like related to your father's like siblings, the siblings he creates, you're still socialized under your mother. So her white mom could not teach her the quote unquote like girlhood or womanhood that she was looking for
Mhm.
until her father married a black woman who could speak to that part of her, because he's still a black man at the end of the day. He could
Yeah.
speak to her blackness, which he obviously failed in doing that also. Like when the way she was talking, it was really giving delusional. No
For
shade.
real.
But I was just
No
kind of like,
shade, but
what? It was really delusional. And so it really took him remarrying a whole black woman for her
mhm.
to feel this sense of belonging and this identity somewhere. And I'm thinking, like, she's a criminal justice activist. So I'm like,
Right.
are you that to prove your blackness? Because if you're forever
Yes.
in that line of work and they're asking you, okay, like even the fact that she said herself, like, I think it was white people who told her, why do you keep like the like n-word on your birth certificate? Why don't you
Mhm.
get another one so you don't
Mhm.
have that on there? Because you can present as a white person. It took a black woman coming into your life to understand that, not even your black dad who was there with you from freaking birth, to explain to you you are not one of us primarily. Like,
Yeah.
you're just not. You don't look like us. You don't experience that life. It really took that overall sense of rejection and your dad getting remarried to a black woman. And that's exactly why, like, a lot of those marriages, they fall apart. A lot of those relationships
Yep.
fall apart. And what Sin was saying is correct. Most biracial children and mixed children in the black collective, I believe, or maybe it's overall, I don't remember. But I know amongst black people, most of those biracial children are from black fathers. That I
Yeah.
know.
It's
And
like 90
so,
something percent, isn't it? It's
yeah,
a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. And most of the biracial uh people I grew up with had a black dad. And they
Yeah.
grew up with a lot of BS. Like they went through a lot. And so it's like I love how they both had black fathers, because this is primarily what the setup looks like and what it sounds like.
Mhm.
Awfully confused, all over the place, proving the point that blackness is not a marker that you can choose. Like, even when they were talking, they kept saying, well, that's what I chose. I chose. Okay, you're obviously not black, because anybody who is full black will tell you they can't choose a side. You
Yeah.
just are. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's what they sound like to me on average. That's what they sound.
Yeah, it annoys me because and this is no different than other things. Like if you're born as something, you're naturally born as something. You're naturally born black. You're naturally born a woman. It is offensive when someone who is neither of those things gets onto something and says, I choose to be this way. I choose to be black. I choose. It is being black is not a choice. You either are or you're not. You
Right.
either are or you're not. And it is offensive. Like even Cynthia G, she said, like, I'm offended. Like it is offensive to see an ambiguous woman claim that she's black over three fully black women on the same panel.
Mm-hmm.
Like and then have the nerve to say, "Oh, I don't see my privilege. I don't see how I'm a preference. I don't, I don't get it. I'm black like everyone else." Like, girl, what? What?
And it was weird because she literally came out her own mouth, then said, well, I have had, that point, like white people asking me, why don't I just call myself white? And you don't see your privilege in being able to call yourself white? And that's
Yeah.
why I was like, I'm glad Cynthia literally said, oh, well, and the reason why they can't call themselves white is because we all know white is, connected to power, and they just can't, because white
Mhm.
people will not let that happen. And
Yeah.
they can't just do that, and they've already made it so, because I'm sure that biracial and mixed people would gladly call themselves white and want the privileges associated with it. And I was like, thank
Exactly.
you. Thank you.
It's true. They feel disconnected from whiteness because they were forced to feel that way.
Hmm.
White
And that's what I've
people,
been seeing. Yeah.
yeah, white people, even Asian people, they gatekeep their communities. They don't really they don't let people who aren't fully white, fully Asian represent for them in any kind of way. They just don't. Because that takes away from their legacy, that takes away from their generational wealth that they're trying to pass down. If you just have all these mixed folks coming in, when historically all the people that built the systems were not mixed, it's not going to work. It doesn't make sense. But since the black community is a minority community, the black community has, we've been under slavery and stuff like that. I think that certain people think it's okay to just bombard in like it's nothing because they know the history. That's kind of like
Yeah.
how I'm starting to feel.
Yeah. And then also, too, like, we have to understand, too, like, Black men collectively are very subjugated, like, even in their own mindset when it comes to their
Hmm.
own identity and image.
Yeah.
So they don't even fight for their own image, which means they're not going to fight for the image of Black women either. And I think
Right.
a lot of Black women don't quite understand that. Like, you can't expect a group of men to gatekeep what they have reproduced, right?
Hmm.
Or what they
Hmm.
reproduce if they don't even gatekeep their own identities and their image and their reputation. Like, you just can't expect that. And so, because of that, it's like it's always Black women who have consistently have to gatekeep our own spaces. I'm not saying that women of other, races and ethnicities don't do that, but what I'm saying is that their men reinforce them, because that's what men are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Protect the women that can reproduce their image,
Hmm.
right? Because
Hmm.
they too want to replicate themselves. And that's just naturally it's like a psychological thing, but it's a physiological thing too. And then when it comes down to also what you were saying, like, even when, like, it's the other mixed woman, I think her name is Crystal, not Mona Lisa, but the other one at the bottom, Crystal.
Hmm. Crystal, I
Yeah.
think that's her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when she was talking, right? Like, I was thinking to myself about how she kept saying, like, oh yeah, well, you know, I'm Black because, I was raised in this part of the culture and that part of the culture. And I was like, but doesn't that sound like a Black man to you? Like, that's what they say
Yeah.
when they to women when they date outside their race. They're like, well, you know, like, they're Black. That's a Black woman technically, because, like, she dances to this music, she can do this, she can wear this, and she talks like this, and it's like, that's not Blackness.
Yeah.
Like, that's not Blackness. That means everybody can partake. And so i do not I don't necessarily blame them, for the reason why they feel that way. I definitely blame the Black men who were in their lives primarily, because it's up to the men to understand that you cannot let people feel comfortable with talking to the women in your collective that share your genetic genome any old type of way. Like, that's their job, because men want to reproduce themselves. And the only way they can do that is by mating with the women that they can reproduce with to, replicate themselves. And it's like, these women over here are a primary example of what it is that when you don't gatekeep your image, when you deal with a certain type of self hatred, this is what you're reproducing. Confusion,
Yeah.
like genuine
Confusion.
confusion.
Yeah, and they're choosing to be with that. That's why I said, like, as a black woman who's, if you're interested in dating out and marrying out, vetting is so important, and looking for qualities that will ensure that you won't be the black person in the family who let in like a racist white side, because these black men will get with anything white and
Yeah,
easy, but will
yeah,
completely reject the other qualities that will set up their children to fail in the mother.
right,
Like,
right.
they won't pay attention if she's a racist, or if she has a racist family, and then their kids come out looking, thinking crazy, like thinking confused, trying to do things to validate their blackness. Like, and black women dating out has nothing to do with the reasons black men want to date out. It's all superficial, it's all in the moment type of BS with this non-black woman. But then when you have kids, when the divorce is finalized, it's like all hell breaks loose for the next 18 years
Mm-hmm.
because you
And that's
thought
probably the
something was
reason.
easy.
And that's probably the reason why he married a black woman right after, because he probably did not
Right.
think that she was going to leave the child with him. And that's what a lot of, black men don't understand, because black women, we don't have to deal with that, because we can teach our, mixed and biracial children about race consciousness and
Mhm.
colorism and all these things, because we've dealt with that very differently. Like, even when you see like Meghan Markle, right?
Yeah.
Her father, her white father had like some issue or whatever. Like, he tried to kind of exploit her fame and stuff. But her
Mhm.
black mother was very protective of her. And that's the reason why she doesn't really have a lot of issues with the way she views
Right.
herself, because her black mother never put her in a box. And her black mother also helped her be comfortable in her identity. Even when she was
Right.
confronted, yeah, even though she was confronted with, like, being accepted more by white people than even her own mother, right, who birthed her, she wasn't like, oh, like, I just feel like I don't really like the fact this. It's like, with Mona Lisa, like, she's trying to have to prove her black side. Meghan Markle doesn't have that
Yes.
issue.
Yes, I was about to say, like, she looks like a woman who is fully content on who she is. Even before she married, um, what's his name?
Prince
Harry.
Harry. Mm-hmm.
She was in Hollywood, she was in shows, like she was definitely involved in spaces that
Mm-hmm.
were predominantly black. Like she was in societies that were a wide range of people. She didn't feel like she needed to be tied down to blackness. Like she was out living her life. She's she's literally the example. I would use Meghan Markle as a biracial woman who's half black as an example for black women who want to just detach from the blackistan. I feel like her life is kind of a result. She ended up in spaces where everyone is there, and she ended up meeting literally her Prince Charming. So it's
Yeah.
just kind of like she didn't tie herself down to blackness. She didn't feel the need to validate her blackness in any way, and look where it got her.
Mm-hmm. And then I know someone, one of my friends, she used to work with Megan on the set. She was a what are those people who do the stunt double? Yeah, she was a stunt double.
Mhm.
And she used
Mhm.
to talk about how, like, everyone on set, and mind you, I'm from New York, so it's
Yeah.
different. Like, I'm in Ohio currently, but I'm originally from New York, and it's different kind of the way they see mixed and biracial people. And my friend, she's from New York too, and she was talking about how, like, on set, they never knew that Megan was black. She never really like talked about it. She's a really kind
Yeah.
woman and everything, but she was definitely a woman who could pass. But in Ohio,
Yeah.
where I live, they feel like over here they're more so like, oh, well, biracial is black here. And I feel like that's because of the fact there's not a wide array of like culture here. It's either
Mhm.
like you're mostly like white American, or you're like black, or like black African, if that makes sense. So there's not like a super like wide array of different types of cultures and ethnicities, versus in New York, you know what Eastern Europeans look like, you know what white Americans look like, you know what Western Europeans look like. You can tell. And I remember on Twitter, I was like, Meghan Markle looks like she's white. And everybody was
She
like arguing
does.
with me. And I was like, no, she could go for Italian. If she went to Europe right
Easy.
now, she could really pass for a European. As a matter of fact, like, even if you put her next to even Kim Kardashian, they don't really look that far apart. They definitely
I
both look
agree.
white. Yeah.
I think her mother did a very good job raising her. I think her mother acknowledged that she's multi-raced or that she's biracial, that she does not look like her. And so therefore she didn't push blackness onto her. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that served
Exactly.
her in the end. She just made sure she just focused on raising Megan to just be a good woman, to just have be a woman who has better qualities. Like she didn't push blackness onto her. And from these two biracial women in the show yesterday, from how they sound, it's like blackness was pushed onto them, or in some kind of way, very heavily influenced onto them, more so than them just acknowledging that they're biracial and being good women. And I don't know why I don't know why certain biracial people want to validate their blackness so badly over their other race. They just, you are what you are, and you just need to be happy with that and stand in it. Like, you look crazy trying to reject something of yourself. You look much more normal and much better, and you're much more relatable when you just stay true to who you are, no matter what that is.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly. And
I don't know.
it would give them so much more freedom to be who they want to be if they would embrace their identity. That's the thing. Like, if they were to start really embracing the fact that, like, race is on a spectrum for them, it really would change the way we view like our racial relations too. Not saying it would bring about like, all this like, oh, quote unquote peace and stuff like that, but it would bring about the bigger conversation that had been like that's been over due to be had, which is that race is really like a construct, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was literally given to us. Cause even back, even primarily black in Africa, like blackness in itself was given to us, Africans predominantly didn't have a race consciousness at that point. You were just a melanated
Right.
person with a different ethnicity and tribe and culture, religion, and all of that. So the fact that like these biracial people, they think it's empowering, right? For their identities
Hmm.
because they want to find a place to be comfortable and just being black. When in reality, they're actually just enforcing the racism that they're supposedly so against. Like, even with Mona Lisa, it's like you're enforcing the racism that you fight against every single day because you're letting white people tell
Exactly.
you that you're black and not white because they push you to that side. And even with like in the South with the Creole people, a lot of people don't know this, but Creoles were okay with being called white. That's why they tried to fit in and they tried to, fit into their societies and all that stuff and hid the fact that they had, black parents. It was because white people were like, we don't want them inheriting our wealth. So we're going
Hmm.
to implement the one drop rule in which we have to check their papers and see if they had a black parent. That's really what really happened. People act like the Creole people had stood up and was like, "Oh yeah, like we're actually really black and we don't want black people to be bullied. So like let's join the black side and call." No, they didn't even care. They were definitely fine with like the Blue Vein Society and creating their own society in which they had like whitened themselves up through
Yes.
generations. They were perfectly fine. And that's why I was happy when Sinji had mentioned that because I was like, no, it's because white people told you that and push you to the side. That wasn't your choice. The fact that
Hmm.
you even think that, and you could just hear it through the conversation. They were very confused. I'm like, they don't even know their own history of how that came about at all.
No, they don't. And it is. Yeah, I don't know. When I see things like this, I just know how not to raise my biracial kids. They're not going to be raised to think they have to choose, to be confused, any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, coming from a black woman, I think it's bound to be different anyway.
That's true.
Like, even, I mean, when black men have biracial kids, it's just not the same because, like I said, they get with those women for sexual fetish reasons, and black women saying they want to marry out, it's not sexual and fetish like
Right.
with non-black men, because like, why would it be? But
Mm-hmm.
Lumi Light, I see you in the chat. I saw you come up. If you want to come back up, I'd love to hear from you. If anyone else wants to call in and talk about this biracial the biracial interview, and having biracial kids, because it's a lot of talk for black women wanting to date out, marry out, which is totally fine, but this is something, to think about, having biracial kids as a black person, how you're going to raise them to identify, and how you can help them not to grow up to be confused and looking crazy to
Mm-hmm.
calling themselves black when they look more white. I mean, I don't understand. I don't get that. I mean, I'm a brown skin. I'm definitely looking black. I look black off rip, but
Same.
if I were biracial, I could not look in the mirror and I have a more white look and then look in the mirror and say I am black. Like I would feel I can't even picture it. I don't have the range. I'm not biracial, but
Right.
like that is strange because when anyone, no matter your color, no matter your race, when you think of a black person, you don't think of a biracial person. You
Mm-hmm.
don't. You think of like Kelly Rowland or Denzel Washington. You think of those types of black looking people
Right.
that are black. So it's like, biracial people are trying to fit in with that image and it's not gonna work. It's not
And I
gonna
wish
work.
that other dark skinned woman would have reinforced sin instead of trying to make it seem like it was a quote on like, well, this is where, we get really into sticky area. No, it's not.
Hmm.
Sin is right there breaking it down completely, telling you why that is. And that's the reason why the both of those women started deflecting. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh well, I don't really think that. Oh well, I think you're better to answer that question. Right, because that's what it is. Like she's literally put the words to what is going on in this conversation about your identity, and you're just upset because for so long you've gotten away with calling yourself a black woman, and that's just not going to fly in
It's
2022.
not gonna fly. And if I have a biracial daughter, I am not gonna be okay with her taking my image as a black woman, even though she's my daughter, because it's not just
Right.
about me, it's about other black women as well that look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not going to be offended by this because I'm going to teach her to love both sides of her culture. Like I'm going to teach her to acknowledge both sides of her culture, and I'm not going to make her feel like she has to choose. And I'm going to do that by not elevating blackness and pushing it in her face all of the time. Like I'm going to involve her in activities where there's a diverse group of people everywhere. I'm not just going to involve her in things that are solely and only black. And
Oh, and then I wanted to. Oh yeah. Hmm.
go ahead.
Oh no, I wanted to mention too, real quick. I just remembered I was going to say when Crystal was like, "Oh well, my dad is Nigerian." I started cracking up a little bit because I was like, "That doesn't mean that you're black. That means you're Nigerian. Nigerians have a name
Yeah.
for you. You're not considered a black Nigerian." Like I've heard it time and time again, but in the diaspora, like I'm Haitian myself, we would not consider her a black person. She's what
Yeah,
they
I was
call
about to
like.
say, like, I don't know
Mhm.
how, you know, yeah, African or Caribbean black people, like, I don't know how they would classify mixed race people, but I know for sure that they're not gonna,
Yeah, they don't do
they're
that because they're very tribal. And on top of that, you're
right.
talking about black people, melanated people who had thousands of years of history at that, with reproducing with their own people to call you someone who is half white or mixed or whatever, and you look like that, you go to Nigeria, they can tell that you're not one of them. That's the reason why
Exactly.
your Nigerian father taught you Kwanzaa. How come he didn't teach you about the holidays from back home? Because he knows. He
Exactly.
subconsciously already knows you would not fit in with them in that type of way. It is what it is.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying earlier, like, these women can claim black all night and day, but a actual fully black person, a fully Caribbean, fully African person can see it with their own eyes. You are not fully black.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not something you need to explain, it's something that is obvious.
Right.
So you not wanting to acknowledge the obvious, you look crazy. You look like you
Mm-hmm.
got some kind of racial identity dysmorphia thing going on. Like you believe you're something that you're technically not. You're not black, you are biracial.
Mm-hmm. And
Like
that's why I was happy that Sin wasn't scared to like really answer the questions, but also kind of like dominate the convo and not go
yeah.
off the deflection of the two women. And nor was she afraid, because I think that's what the other dark skinned woman, I think she was getting at. I can tell by her facial expressions, she could tell, like, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't really make sense because how did you not ever see colorism? How did you not experience your image being exalted?
Right.
And I could
Like
tell by her face, she could tell that that doesn't make sense. Hello. And when Sin was like breaking it down, and I was like, thank you, finally a black woman who's not afraid, because in real life it's like we always have to stay quiet and let them have their show, because most
Mhm.
black people will sit here and be like, oh no, like we totally get it, like yeah, we can totally relate, oh yeah, really, oh yeah, and then we just dismiss it. And it's like, no, they do live a completely different life than we do. The fact that you're even socialized somewhat by a white mom or a white dad just shows you don't experience what we have. Your mother, I think it isn't it like 400% chance higher of living during childbirth, because white women don't go through the birth mortality rate. So, no, the low
Mm,
birth mortality rate. So it's like you do have a privilege in this life from the time you
yeah.
were born. So it's like, why are you deflecting off the fact? Just embrace it and create your own space, because you even have the privilege to do that now in
Yes.
2022. You don't have anything holding you back. Racial tensions are high, you know. Now white people are even kind of like, not even kind of, they're changing a lot. You know what I mean? Generation Z's not like their older generations. So they're willing
Not
to
at
have the
all.
conversation of, you know what? Like, you're right. That is true. You are, half white, you're half this. And we should definitely embrace that. There's so many articles about it. And I don't know why they don't just take the time to do it. And like,
Mhm.
we don't have any type of like, I don't like when like biracial makes people talk, especially the women. It's like the way they talk about black people, it's like we have some type of privileges for them that they think that we're taking away from them when we tell them that they're not black. It's like the weirdest thing. They're
It's
like,
so
oh, I'm so
weird.
offended, like why would you do that to me, and blah blah blah. And it's like, we ain't got nothing over here. It's the white people
It's
who have everything. Like, why don't you go over there?
I mean, it's a fact. And, I get it. Like, they want to feel some sense of community and they want to feel included in something. I mean, who doesn't? That's a natural human feeling. But the facts are, you are not fully black. You're not fully white. Another new fact is, biracial children, the population for biracial people has increased like over 100 to 200 something percent.
Mm,
So there's enough of y'all now to find community with each other. Like, you
right,
don't have to keep this old school way of like being the person left out. There's a lot of y'all now and y'all can make your own stuff. Like, feel y'all have a huge number of people now.
right.
So embrace that.
Exactly. Exactly. And then people who also too you can bond with over your experiences. You don't have to feel left out. You can even find others who you can even get married to, you know? It's not like you have to feel obligated to like marry a black man to prove your blackness and have that black family for that sense of belonging. You don't have to do that. So it's really weird, especially with Mona Lisa. I was just shocked because she can actually pass for white.
Yes, she
And
looks so white to me.
yeah, I have a best friend. She's biracial and she can present as white, and she presents as white even though she knows she's biracial. And
Yeah.
she dates only like primarily white. She doesn't date black men at all. And she doesn't have no
Mhm.
issues with it. So I'm kind of like surprised because usually the biracial people that I know, when they can present as white, they just go to their white side and keep it moving. But Mona Lisa, she stuck around, so I don't know if that's like a internal thing. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an internal thing for her because she's talking about how her white side rejected her.
hmm
So I think it's an internal thing, and as in she's trying to receive validation from black people, but even more so to make up for the white validation she missed out on.
hmm
Um I don't know, but I don't know what I don't know why she's clinging on to blackness so much. Like you were saying, she's a criminal justice advocate and all that, and she is legitimately like a passing woman. Like, it's
yeah. She
weird. I
honestly
don't.
looks like Rachel Dolezal. Dolezal.
Yes, she does. She does
Yeah.
look like Rachel Dolezal. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's okay if she wants to. Nothing wrong with being a criminal justice, like whatever, but it's just the way she's going about it is just interesting. Like it does seem like she's going about it to cling onto blackness instead of genuinely like caring about criminal justice. Like I wonder if she was not biracial, she was fully white, would she still have this same energy for criminal justice, black lives and all that other stuff? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I don't know.
And if she had her white mother in her life, would that have impacted the direction in which she
Exactly. If
took?
her white or if she was, still biracial, but her white side did not reject her, like would she still have this clinging on to blackness and black social justice issues? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It doesn't seem genuine to me. It just seems like she's trying to make up for something that she feels she lacks.
Right. And even the one on the right side, Crystal, like, even when she was talking, like, I just found it funny when she was like, well, yeah, like, I'm black and I'm this and I'm that. And I think it was Sin who was like, yeah, but phenotypically, like, look at you. And it
Right.
was
Like,
like,
are you kidding me?
you literally have white skin. The fact that you even sit here and call yourself black with melanin and you have white fair skin, like, this is the delusion I'm
Yes.
talking about. This is very delusional. And I'm not even trying to be funny, but now it's like as I like really watch these videos, because I never knew this was such a like phenomenon, and maybe because like I was raised by the diaspora, so it's never
Right.
been a
Same.
thing like, okay, you're not black, so like move on, hello.
Yeah.
But
It
it's
took
like,
me, yeah.
whoa, this is delusional.
I mean, it did take me time to like sit and really think about it because all my life I never really, I was raised, I'm a fully black woman, so I
Hmm.
was raised fully black. Like don't
Hmm.
have I don't have the range to speak on biracial stuff,
Right.
but it's not until, I got older and started seeing biracial women think they're just as equal to me and want to put themselves over me and want to put themselves over being fully black as a half black person. I was like, okay, something ain't right because this is weird. Like, you don't look like me at all. You look more so like you're just a Hispanic person or a European
Right.
person with that just so happens to have some curly hair. Like,
Right.
because you ain't got to be black to have curly hair. Like, you can be other races and have curly hair. So, there's nothing about you that screams blackness, but you're caping so hard like you're as dark as me. Like,
Right, exactly. And that was what was so funny to me. Like, even when she was like, well, I just had never seen that. And I'm like, yeah, you never seen it because you've always been the preference. That's why you've
right.
never seen it. Any
Oh
black
my
woman,
God.
any black woman who is black, but also with kinky 4C hair and dark skin will tell you we have all experienced being bypassed or being spoken on in a negative light. And that was based on our blackness. So it's like
Yes.
very, very weird. And even when, because I mean, it's 2022, we just have to call it a spade a spade. But even being a light skinned black woman is not even it anymore. You have to be like
Mhm.
mixed or biracial. You can't be a light skinned black woman that looks more on the blacker side. And by blacker side, I mean like a wider nose, kinkier
Mhm.
hair. You can't be that anymore. That's not in. You have to be like more so towards what they look like to be considered like that exotic black woman. And so for them to even sit here and say, well, it's, I've never really, exactly, because I'm sure that either Sin or the other dark skinned woman or even the other woman up there, the black woman, has experienced that before. I'm sure there was a time they've experienced where they were shown in a negative light because they are black women. And so it's just very,
Yeah.
very weird. Like, it's very, very weird.
Yeah, it's just it's interesting because if I only experienced the positives of everything, of course I'd say I'd like it and I would claim to associate myself with it the most. But being black and claiming black is more than just claiming the things you like. It's also claiming the things you unfortunately don't like because it's part of our history and it's part of the black experience, going through things that are just not okay and not fair and not being seen as equal. And you can't just claim the parts that you like that you experienced. You have to claim parts that are not so pretty because, like with everyone else, it comes with the experience of that person.
Mhm. And I also
So,
too believe that they would be a lot more, how do you call it? It would be a lot more useful if they actually were more so activists and stuff like that. Not saying you have to raise your like biracial and mixed children to be activists. I'm not saying that. Actually, I'm totally against that. But for them, primarily the ones who are like very much like into blackness and calling themselves black, it's better for them to be marching and activists because they can speak truth to the people who gave birth to them. And that's just being honest. Like you directly
right.
experience rejection from your own parent, who's white or non black, period, so you can speak on that because obviously the black women who are marching currently, nobody believes our stories. Nobody hears it. We primarily like, surround the noise with black men's experiences. So maybe if these biracial women speak, you know, maybe
Mhm.
something will shake because they directly have experienced whiteness because they're part white. And so I just feel like they would just be better off doing that as opposed to invading black spaces. And that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And they would be better off um using the privilege that they love to ignore to bring light to issues that actually matter to the the culture they say they love the most. Like
Hmm.
that makes more sense than to just have all this resentment towards a culture that understands and clearly sees that you're not fully black, and call you out for that. And
Exactly.
they had such a what really got me is they said, or I guess Mona Lisa said she's experienced jealousy from black women, or it just being hard. That jealousy thing, and then I think the darker skinned girl at the top left, she said, I've never been jealous of a why would I be jealous? Like, I'm a fully black woman and I know you the one who's confused. Why would I be jealous of confusion? That doesn't make
Right.
any sense.
And on top
That
of
doesn't
that,
make no
like
sense.
both of those black women look better than you. What is there to be jealous of? You're not even good looking. You're not even that. Why would we be jealous of you? Like, no, it has nothing to do about like it has nothing to do with that. Like, we are upset because you keep calling yourself something and identifying with experience that you don't even have. And then on top of that, you're exalted for the most minute and honestly bare minimum standards. Like the fact is black women, and I'm just going to throw this out there, the fact is black women that our beauty privilege doesn't even work within our own black collective says a lot. You know, it really
Yeah.
does say a lot about um, black men in general, and also the black women who approve of this behavior and this
Mhm.
delusion that a black person, has to have a drop of whiteness to even be approved or seen as the best or beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
While
it's
other
crazy.
races and ethnicities of women, it's like they actually are just beautiful for themselves and who they are. We can't be that. We have to be born into a certain genetic pool. So it's like, no, they're not jealous of you. They just honestly probably think it's weird.
Yeah, and that is technically self-hate. Like, everyone wants to say that darker skin or brown skin black women have some kind of a self-hate because they call out things, but really self-hate and a dislike of blackness is exactly that. It's actually saying that black isn't beautiful unless it has some kind of mixture in it. That
Mhm.
is anti-black because you're not accepting blackness for what it is. You are saying that it needs to be mixed or turned into completely something else to be
Ex-
considered beautiful. So
ex-
that's anti-black and that is self-hate. That's what that
exactly.
is. Like,
Exactly.
black women don't hate themselves or are jealous because they call out the fact that women who are not black want to be black. That's not self-hate and that's not jealousy. That's calling things for what it is and gatekeeping your image as a black woman. And Cynthia said it right there. That's a gaslighting tactic. It's a
Right.
gaslighting tactic for you to keep bombarding on black woman's image, an image you so badly want,
But
because you
calling us
can't have the white
jealous,
image.
it's
So
very laughable. It's very laughable. That's what
yeah.
really like takes me. I'm like, okay, we're jealous, but you were the one who was directly rejected by your own white mother. But we are the ones who are jealous. That's delusional.
Right. That
We're
is
the ones who
crazy.
approved of you. We're the ones who you want to be. We're the ones who you identify with and everything. But we are jealous of you. Like that's absolutely delusional. I cannot say that enough. Like what?
It doesn't make it's like it doesn't make any sense. It sounds insane. I look at I've never had an issue with a biracial woman personally. I've never had a biracial woman think I was jealous of her at all. But to hear that, I'm just like, I don't know any black woman that wishes she was half white. Because
Mhm.
for you as a black woman to wish you were half white, it can't be for any other reason than to attract a black man because
Right.
no other group of people no other group of people is like out here rejecting you for your blackness the way that black men are. They're
Right.
not. Not even non-black men. Like non-black men may have, there's non-black men who are with white women and have only been with white women, but that doesn't mean they have a problem with black women. All right? Like when black men get with white women, more oftentimes than not is because they have some kind of issue with black women, see us as difficult, whatever the case is.
Exactly. And I've never met a black woman who actually wanted to be a white woman, like ever in my life,
Never.
unless it's for like the privileges of whiteness, but never for looks. And that's not even to be shady. Like, I've never met a black woman who was like, man, I just wish I
No.
had this. I just think this is so beautiful because, like, look at her. And I'm like, I've never met it. I've only met black women who were like, yeah, I wish I didn't have my natural hair because I'm bullied and I wish I had straighter hair because I'm tired of being bullied. But never like, oh yeah, like they look so pretty, like they look so much better than us.
Like they
No,
hate their skin color, like,
yeah,
you know,
never
I've
have.
never met that either. I've actually seen the opposite of non-black women. I mean, we can all see it, how these non-black women get surgery to get bigger booties and bigger lips to look like black women. It's more apparent that these non-black women try to look more black or try to look black than black women try to look white or
Oh yeah,
non-black or whatever. Like we
yeah.
see that
My
all the
old
time.
boss, yeah, my old boss. She used to even say like she loved my brown skin because she liked the way, and it's weird, but like she was like she likes the way it was like wow, like your she was like your skin is like so brown, it's so youthful, and she was like that's why because you see my skin and her skin has a lot of how do you call it like those age spots because of those sunspots. And she was
Mhm.
like that's why I married like she married like some Italian or Sicilian or something like that because she said she didn't want her kids to come out like her and stuff.
Yeah.
So her kids all came out like, the darker white and stuff. And she was like, yeah, like I just wish like when I went outside and stuff, I could like show my skin like you and blah blah blah. Because they think about stuff like that. Because we do have eternal youth. Like black
Yeah.
women, we just don't have to deal with the how do you call it? The burden of poor facial symmetry and bad
Mhm.
skin. We just don't have that plight.
We don't have it, and I've just met so many non-black women compliment me for my natural black features. I've met non-black women that just want to get with a black man because she wants a half black baby. I've met
Mhm.
more non-black women wanting to cling onto blackness in some kind of way through a black man or through surgery than I have with black women wanting to cling on to whiteness due to looks and other superficial reasons. Really just period.
Right, because we're not I feel like black
So
women are
black
not
women,
that
there's no way
about it.
black women can be jealous when literally everyone is trying to, in one way or another, be a black woman. You got biracial women out here claiming black, and you got non-black women out here wanting to look like a black woman with big lips, big booty, or get with a black man just so they can have a half black child as well and cling on to blackness that way. Like,
Right. But we've also too, we black women have a more so acceptance of ourselves too. We sincerely do not believe we can be white. And black men still think if they reach a certain social status, they're white. Like you even hear like
yeah.
rappers and stuff say that. Like, oh yeah, I made this amount of money, like call me a white man and all this stuff. Like they say those things. You'll never hear
Oh
a black
yeah.
woman saying that. Like, oh yeah, I'm this. Like I go to Starbucks, I do this, so I'm white. Like you'll never hear it.
Yeah, black men, I have seen them more so want to cling on to whiteness through status, through having a white woman on their arm. I mean, yeah, that's been blasted everywhere about how black men feel closer to whiteness when they're with a white woman and they're in white men's spaces. That is that is like a thing that goes down in history. There's songs and books written in the early 1900s of black men saying how they feel so happy close to being close to whiteness when they're with a white woman. There is I wish someone would show me any type of art, media or whatever from a black woman saying the same thing
And I
about how
just
she wants
wish,
to cling to whiteness.
yeah, and I just wish too, like, people would just like read more often. Like, it's never been a thing. And what's ironic about it is that black women would benefit more so in their partnerships with white men than black men will ever benefit in their partnerships with white women, even
Yeah,
down to the way we bear our children. And it's very ironic that nobody has that real conversation because men and women are just not the same, you know? Like the way like white men look at their like mixed and biracial children is not the way that black men look at their mixed and biracial children,
nowhere
because
near the
white men
same.
don't see their mixed and biracial children as one of them. So therefore they're kind of more so like confident in their own image, and they raise better biracial and mixed children also, not just black women, if that makes sense. And so it is
Yeah,
very odd when like you hear like when black men say these things and then look at the children they're producing, and it's like, okay, where are you going with this? Because I'm like like
right.
sometimes I'm just like, okay, I feel like black women, we need to have more honest conversations about the fact that we're just not that. Like me personally, as someone who primarily interracially dates, like I'm considered like completely divested. I
Mhm.
never ever thought to myself, even though, like, yeah, statistically, like, white men and black women make better partnerships. I have never gotten, like, I've never dated a white man because I wanted to be closer to whiteness. I've never thought to myself in that
Never.
sense. So it's just so odd when I hear black men say that, and I'm like, ooh, gosh,
It is
like,
so weird.
it's very odd.
It's so weird because, like I said, the reasons black women date out is for better quality of relationship. It doesn't have much to do with race other than the fact that men of other races are just raised differently. Just is what it is. It's just about more black women are just, you know, falling for who they fall for, and the man just isn't black. But the main thing that got her there with him and kept her there is who he is as a man and the qualities he
Exactly.
has. And the culture he comes from helped him cultivate that, which are attractive to a lot of women. And the culture that black men perpetuate is not attractive to women, especially who want to have families, who want to be, protected, cared for, and loved properly. The culture that black men perpetuate is not that's not how it is
Right.
at all.
Exactly. And that's why I'm happy like this episode is like, I think Fox Soul is more mainstream, right? Like it's more on the mainstream side.
Yeah, I mean it's a Fox network, so Fox is definitely a mainstream media, you know, company. Um I hope they have more conversations like this on Fox Soul.
Yeah,
I,
because
I
this
hope
is
they
exactly what BET should have done, but I guess they're just too scared to do it.
right. I low key think Fox Soul is going to take over BET. I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest.
Yeah.
With these types of conversations and this type of content, oh yeah, because this type of stuff matters. Like they bought on the fact they bought on Cynthia G,
Mm-hmm.
who is like a long time heavy hitter in the BWE space.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like they're watching. Like they're watching. They're
Yeah.
listening to Black women. And Fox Soul, I'm sure of it, has a large Black female audience, and they're gonna put people on there that we support. So they're not putting on Kevin Samuels and all that other stuff. They're just no. I don't,
Yeah,
that's
and
not
I'm happy about it. I'm like tired of all the like reiterative like conversations about like old yesteryear, about like one drop rule stuff and like all black is the same. Like I'm tired of that. I just feel like as black women today, especially me, I'm more so like towards the Gen Z generation. Like, that's old news because obviously some of us in this black community, so called, is receiving more privileges than others. So it can't be that all black is the same. And we need to have newer conversations that actually matter.
Yeah, conversations that actually matter, that are going with the times. A lot of younger Black women, especially, are talking about interracial dating and dating out and trying it for the first time. We're seeing it in the commercials, Black women
Mhm.
with non-Black men. Like, those conversations need to happen, and I think conversation around biracials will definitely be a part of that, because they are, the products of um, a Black person and a non-Black person getting together. And I hope the next conversation with biracial people involves the differences between a Black mother and a Black father getting with a
Exactly.
non-Black person. That is a much needed, long overdue conversation. So
Yeah,
I
it's
hope they
happening
get
on
into that
TikTok,
next.
that's for sure.
Right. I hope they get into that next, because I would love to be a part of it.
Yeah,
I love
for
being a part
sure.
of it, but I'm probably going to. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? Because I'm probably going to get off of here soon.
Oh, yeah, I'm completely done. And I thank you for inviting me to this space and this live.
Thank you so much for coming up, and I really appreciate everything you had to say. I totally agree. You were spot on. I agree with Cynthia G on this and everything she has to say, pretty much. I'm always agreeing with her. So yeah, ladies, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna end this live because for me, it's the middle of the day. I still got works to do. But I hope you ladies enjoyed. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you're a first time listener, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it when I go live. I'm going to leave this live up. It was a very good conversation, and I will talk to you ladies in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.